I'm Phil Hellmuth Jr. In our last session, we talked about how you should play your hand if you flop top pair in position. Now, we're going to look at some techniques for playing top pair when you're out of position. Well, flopping top pair out of position isn't as bad as flopping air out of position. Yeah, obviously. It can be a lot more expensive if you're not careful. Why? Remember, being out of position puts you at a huge disadvantage to your opponent by forcing you to act first throughout the hand. If you have nothing but air on this spot, it's often easier to slow down your play and get away from your hand when your opponent plays back at you than it is to give up on something as strong as top pair in the same situation. For this reason, it's even more important to keep the pot small when you're playing top pair out of position than it is to play the same hand in position. Let's look at the same hand we used in our last lesson, our same example. You have ace queen. The flop is ace 9-3, all offsuit, rainbow. If we happen to raise our hand pre-flop, we should just go ahead and make our standard continuation bet of 50 to 60% of the pot on the flop. Since we know our opponent is unlikely to raise us with a monster hand like trips, we can assume his hand is fairly weak if he does indeed raise. In this case, our best play is to call and bet again on the turn. However, let your instincts occasionally, if you really, it's come ace 9-3, you bet out on the flop, now the guy raises you. If something in your mind just tells you he has to be crushed, you occasionally can just fold your hand. In any case, if your opponent just calls your continuation bet on the flop, then checking the turn is a smart play, unless your hand improves. Now, if he bets behind you, you can reevaluate the strength of your hand and determine what you want to do. If he checks behind, chances are you have the best hand and you can comfortably bet the river. But if he bets behind, most likely you're going to have to call him, at least on 4th Street. Remember, while top pair may be the best, your top pair, your hand, there's also a decent chance that it's not. Keep the pot small to minimize your risk and to prevent your opponents from putting you in a spot where you're making a tough decision for a ton of chips out of position.